Now, President Trump's had a history-making Middle East trip, an example of his peace through strength strategy. He acknowledged, Josh, that the US hasn't always been a force of good in the region.
Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves.
Josh, this is a dramatically different approach from what we've seen in the past. This is a rejection of the neocon, warhawk, interventionists. How did you see that trip?
Well, that speech specifically was a fantastic speech. I watched the whole thing, actually. He gave that speech in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He spoke at this U.S.-Saudi conference. So he's done yeoman's work to already pull back Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates from falling prey into the Chinese sphere of influence there. China had done a lot of outreach via its Belt and Road Initiative into the Arabian Peninsula during the Biden administration, because the Biden administration was molly-coddling the Iranian regime, and the Arabs basically then all went to China. So Donald Trump, I think, deserves 3 cheers for what he did with the Saudis and the Emiratis. Now, Rita, I will be candid with you. I am a bit concerned about the Qatari piece of the puzzle there. Qatar is a much more complicated country than Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Qatar has been a financier of Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, even Al-Qaeda and ISIS at times in the past there. So I'm not necessarily in love with Qatar being a whole part of this American bromance in the Middle East there. I view Qatar quite differently, actually, than the Saudis, the Emiratis, which are non-Islamist Arab states there. I'm also a little bit concerned about the potential direction of the Iran nuclear talks there, but ultimately everything that Donald Trump is saying on the Iran issue is actually very good. So as long as he says what he means and he means what he says, and I think everything's going to be okay.
Well, he seems to be there also not just to try to bring about peace, but also to do business deals. He signed deals worth around $600 billion with the Saudis alone. And as a construction guy, he was very impressed with the marble work in the region.
And the job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done.
Yes, the marble work there, Josh, is something to behold. Meanwhile, the Democrats have the likes of Tim Walz, the failed VP candidate, setting the agenda. He's called immigration officials a modern-day Gestapo.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
Josh, is this the future of the Democrats? Is this what they're going to take to the 2028 election?
You know, it's as if nothing has changed, isn't it? I mean, this is exactly what the Democrats were saying during the first Trump administration. I mean, AOC becomes a congresswoman from New York City in the 2018 midterm election. In her first year in Congress in 2019, I vividly recall her comparing the ICE detention facilities to Nazi-esque concentration camps. So here we are 6 years later, and now Tim Walz is making the exact same analogies. I mean, this is so disgusting that I barely feel like it even has to be commented on. But on the one hand, I mean, just so utterly appalling, obviously. I mean, to make these sorts of analogies there. I mean, these people that are being interrogated, and by the way, they're given habeas corpus, they're giving due process, you know, contrary to what you hear in the corporate media here. These people that are being seized by ICE are not U.S. citizens. They are in the country illegally. They are not on a legal visa. They are here illegally there. The Jews who were rounded up by the Gestapos were citizens of their country. They had done literally nothing wrong other than the mere fact that they were Jewish. So this is just such an appalling, just as a loathsome, disgusting analogy any way you can possibly draw it there. But I think the more important point is they've learned absolutely freaking nothing. They got shellacked in this presidential election, Rita, and look at them. They don't know what to do. They're running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off there. I'm just happy that I'm not the one who has to sort out, because frankly, if I were a Democratic strategist, if I were a Jimmy Carville, I don't even know what I would be thinking when I see crap like this there. I mean, how do you rectify this? These people have to just go away and hide their heads in a paper bag for the rest of eternity. That's probably their only decent chance to get back to sanity at this point.
I tell you, if you're JD Vance and you're watching that, you would have a smile on your face, because he's just going to walk it in. Yep. It's going to be a bit of a cakewalk if they don't improve their game, the Democrats. Before you go, tell me about this Supreme Court decision. The justices ruled 7-2. It was a split decision, 7-2, to temporarily block the Trump administration's efforts to deport Venezuelan gang members who are in the country illegally. The decision was largely over a technical issue, Josh?
Right. So it's not quite a substantive ruling as to the statutory interpretation of this 1798 statute, the Alien Enemies Act. There, having said that, Rita, the fact that it was a 7-2 decision is nonetheless indicative there. So we've seen a handful of these 7-2 decisions there. It always ends up being Justices Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. They are by far the most two conservative, the most two constitutionalist, originalist justices there. You know, unfortunately, all three of Donald Trump's nominees, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch, they're better for sure than John Roberts, but they are not nearly as good as Sam Alito or Clarence Thomas. And if a SCOTUS vacancy, or God willing, more than one, opens up in these 4 years while Trump is president, Rita, conservatives are going to have to do a lot better than we did the last time there, because these are really, really, really precious vacancies. We simply cannot afford to mess it up.
I think that will be amongst Donald Trump's worst mistakes in his first administration, because he could have really secured the Supreme Court, and then the candidates he picked, whoever advised him, they haven't worked out as planned. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita.